Chapter 5, yes? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billahi al-aliyyil azim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi tayyibin tahirin. اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. There are two concepts that we frequently use in philosophy. I'm going to use whiteboard. If you could check the, it's okay. So we have the concept of wujud and al-mahiyya. Okay? Al-wujud. Is it recording? Yeah. Okay. Al-wujud, al-mahiyya. Wujud, we translate it as being or existence. Al-mahiyya, there are different translations. Whatness, or sometimes nature, sometimes quiddity. I think quiddity is double D? Yes. And the reason it is called mahiyya is because this is the answer to the question ma huwa fi dhatihi. For example, if I say, what is this in its essence? The answer to this question is its mahiyya. If I say, what is this in its essence, in its nature? Okay? That is mahiyya. So, ma yuqalu fi jawab ma hu, or ma yuqalu fi jawab ayy shay'an huwa fi dhatihi, that is mahiyya. So, every contingent being, every mumkinul wujud has two aspects, wujud and mahiyya. Its existence and its whatness. In Farsi we say hasti, and chisti. Hasti and chisti. The reason I am saying it in Farsi is that if you don't understand, then you can have excuse. So it was Farsi, we didn't understand. If you don't understand English, it's bad, So you can say it was Farsi.
Hasti when there is wujud, chisti when there is...
Cheese means what? When Dr. asked Sheikh Mirza about the meaning of these two, he said that quiddity means appearance, not essence. As in, and the essence is something else, but the appearance, that's quiddity, it may be something different.
Maybe what another context. So, whatness and existence. Inshallah, we'll explain first.
What does mean that ma hu fi?
Ma huwa fi zati. What is this thing in its essence? Or ayyu shay'in huwa fi zatihi. What is this? So if you refer to a person and we say, what is this person in its essence? If you refer to an animal, a horse, what is this horse in its essence? The answer to this question is its mahiyya. Because you are trying to explain what makes this distinct from other beings. So, mahiyya refers to distinctive nature of the things. So the focus in mahiyya is on something that can explain what is the difference between this reality and other realities. So, it's very important for you to always remember the difference between these two. But, as I said, this is for mumkinat, for contingent being. Yes.
Sheikh, is it very same or similar to the definitions we have in logic, how we define the differentiator, for example?
So, when you have mahiyya, then mahiyya goes back to jins and fasl. Because when you want to explain mahiyya, then you have to use jins and fasl. For jins, you use ma'ulat ash, 10 categories, and then for fasl, you mention differentia, which is distinctive. I don't want to go into those discussions because they come later and it will be very complicated. So, what is important is, for every contingent being, we have two aspects. What it is, in its essence, what constitutes it, and the reality of it. In wajibul wujud, in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we don't have such distinction between wujud and mahiyya. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there is no mahiyya separate from His existence. And this is why our philosophers say, and inshallah you will see later, they say, al-haqqu mahiyatuhu an-niyyatuhu. Al-haqqu mahiyatuhu an-niyyatuhu. Al-haq means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah, means the absolute truth. God. His mahiyya is the same as his an-niyya. An-niyya means existence. His mahiyya is the same as his existence. It means that he doesn't have mahiyya like us. His mahiyya is the same as his wujud. Because he is absolute existence, and absolute existence has no mahiyya. Because what is mahiyya? This is a very important point. What is mahiyya in reality? Mahiyya is the limit of existence. Why we are different from animals? Animals are different from, for example, us. We are different from birds, from plants. Why we are different? Because we have limits. We have limits. And our limits define us, restrict us. We cannot be united with other beings. Okay? Because we are limited. But if you have something like wajibul wujud, which has no limit, then he would cover everything. It's like, for example, countries. Countries have borders. These borders define these countries and show where the country ends. When this country ends, the other country starts. Okay? You cannot have two countries overlapping. Okay? So when one country ends, the other country starts. So these borders are the limits of each country. But if you are thinking of the globe, then there is no border. Everything is included. Okay? So absolute being has no border. And therefore you cannot say it is next to any limited being. It ends when the limited being starts, or the limited being ends when wajibul wujud starts. Wajibul wujud is never compared to any other beings, because they're not in the same level. It's two different levels. Is it clear? There is nothing next to God. One meaning of, or one aspect of the meaning of La tad'u ma'allahi ahada, do not call anyone with God, is that nothing can be put next to God. Even if you want to say they are different from God, in the sense that they can be compared to God, is wrong. I can say, you are different from me, I am different from you. Because we are two finite, limited beings and we are different from each other. But in the same sense that I am saying I am different from you, we cannot say we are different from God. Is it clear? We cannot say we are different from God in this sense. Yes, we are different from God in the sense that because He is unlimited, infinite, and we are limited and finite. Okay. So, in the case of God, we don't have this distinction between Mahiyya and Wujud. His Mahiyya is the same as his Wujud. Okay? But when it comes to Mumkinat, we have these two. Al-Wujud and Al-Mahiyya. Okay? One example that might help you, which is not in the book, but I think no problem in saying this example, is this. What is the difference between these figures? If you have a circle, a triangle, square, what is the difference between these? Pardon?
There are all different shapes.
Yeah. But what makes them different? For example, imagine
The angles,
I have paper.
the angles,
I use a scissor. I cut one paper as circle, another as triangle, another as square. What makes these different?
the angles, there are different angles.
The way that you construct it.
Space they are occupy. You know, the space they are,
The limit,
the limits.
where they end. Yeah. What makes a triangle different from circle is not the space inside. Is the borders, is the limits. Okay?
Inside it's the same paper.
It's the same paper. In being a reality, in being existence, we are not different. In our whatness, we are different. Of course, this doesn't mean that beings are all the same, but it means that that is not the aspect that makes us distinct. So, these are two separate things. What is important? Yes.
Just have a question about the limitlessness of God. We know that he cannot be physical. Doesn't that mean that he is limited to the non-physical?
No, that's not limit. Because he is not limited, he is not physical. To be physical is not a perfection that you say because he's not physical, he's limited. Okay? So,
What about angels?
angels are limited. Still, they are contingent and they are limited. They have wujud and mahiyya. So, we have two things. Wujud and mahiyya. The late Mullah Hadi Sabzawari, rahmatullah alayh. Mullah Hadi Sabzawari was a great alim. Especially he is very well known for his work on logic and philosophy. As you remember, I think I said in one of the early sessions that he made logic and philosophy into a poem, manzume. And then he made commentary. And then he made footnote on the commentary. Himself. So he made the poem, then he made the commentary, then he made the footnote. And for many, many years, this was used as a textbook in the Hawza. Still it is used. But after Bidayatul Hikmah and Nihayatul Hikmah were published by Allama Tabatabai, then they somehow replaced Manzuma. But still those who want to study philosophy, still they study.
He didn't want to opinion of other people.
Pardon?
This man didn't want opinion of other people for make his own footnotes, his own commentaries about what he writes, his self writes. Sounds
No,
like that.
he wanted to explain. He wanted to explain because when you make it poem, it's good because brief and people can memorize. But because it is brief, then some people may not understand it. So he made commentary so that people understand it properly. He has a poem which is very beautiful. Of course, other poems are also beautiful, but this one about our question. He says, إن الوجود عارض المهية.
إن الوجود
عارض المهية. Mahiyat is mahiyya, but because of poem, he says, إن الوجود عارض المهية تصورا واتحد هوية. إن الوجود عارض المهية تصورا واتحد هوية means واتحد هوية. What does it mean? It means that in our mind, first we have two concepts, wujud and mahiyya. And in our mind, mahiyya is the main one, and wujud comes and belongs to mahiyya. For example, you say, al-insanu mawjudun. Or al-farasu mawjudun. So, in your mind, you think of human being, and then you think of the concept of existence, then you say existence has belonged to this mahiyya, so it exists. Al-insanu mawjudun. So mawjud, the subject, is the basis, and predicate comes and belongs to the subject. Okay? So in your mind, which one is first conceived? Mahiyya, insan, or faras. Then mahiyya becomes the subject and existence belongs to it. So, innal wujuda aridul mahiyya. Existence comes and belongs to mahiyya tasawwuran in our conception. So in our understanding, mahiyya is first. We think first of faras or horse. We think first of human being. We think first of a stone. Then we think of its existence. Okay? So this shows that wujud and mahiyya are two things. And in conception, we first normally think of mahiyya. Then we think whether it exists or not. So we say it exists or it doesn't exist. But what about the real world? In the external world, in the real world, in the objective world, or what we call fi alam al-kharij, yeah, in the real world, do we have two different things? Do we have horse and its existence, or a human being and its existence? No. وَاتَّحَدَا هُوِيَّةً. In reality, they are the same. You don't have two separate beings, two separate realities. Huwiyya means existence or means identity. In reality, they are the same. It is the power of mind. You know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made our mind very, very capable of analyzing and combining. Your mind always analyzes, so make things which are together separate, and make things which are separate together. This is the power of mind. Many, many things mind do. And if you want to understand philosophy, you have to understand how mind works. You have to understand how mind works. And this is in addition to, if you want to understand how to deal with people, you have to understand psychology of their mind. You have to understand how people, think as individuals and how people think as group. There's a difference. The way individuals act and the way societies and communities and group act are not exactly the same. They follow different patterns. You cannot just say that what one person does, then 1,000 people do the same thing. No, there are many things that when people have other people with them may do that if they are alone they wouldn't do. Or vice versa. Anyway, I'm not talking about now psychology and politics. I'm going back to philosophy. If you want to understand philosophy, you have to master the way mind works, human mind works. So, human mind, for the sake of understanding, analyzes. So looks at one reality, quickly analyzes and comes up with different notions, different concepts, different aspects to the same reality. And when it comes to wujud and mahiyya, existence and quiddity or whatness, for human mind, mahiyya is the basis. Human mind thinks of mahiyya and then compares its relation with existence and non-existence. It can exist, it can also not exist. Are you familiar with this al-haliyatul basita and haliyatul murakkaba? No? We have two types of existential propositions. Al-haliyatul basita, al-haliyatul murakkaba. Haliyya is coming from hal. You know hal? In Arabic, when we say hal, what does it mean?
Question mark.
Hal is for making question. So you have two types of question.
Yes.
Sometimes you say hal zaydun mawjudun, and the answer can be
Naam.
zaydun mawjudun or zaydun ghayru mawjudun. zaydun laysa bimawjudun. So the question here is about existence of a notion. This is called al-haliyatul basita. It's simple existential question, whether something exists or doesn't exist. If it is coming in affirmative form, it means it exists. If it comes in negational form, it means it doesn't exist. But what is al-haliyatul murakkaba? It's not about existence. It's about something being something. Like, hal zaydun qa'imun. So the question is not about existence of Zayd, the question is about Zayd being something. Is Zayd being standing? So this is not simple existence. It's existence in certain condition. So sometimes your question is about whether something exists or not. Sometimes the question is whether something exists with certain quality. We call this al-haliyatul murakkaba. Okay? So, our mind thinks of something as a subject and then compares it to existence and says, for example, it exists or it doesn't exist as haliyatul basita. Or it can talk about a quality which is haliyatul murakkaba. So, mahiyya, very important point. Mahiyya as such, one of the things that you have to always remember in philosophy, we keep using as such. It means in itself, as such. Al-mahiyatu bimahiyah. Means mahiyah as such. Means if you don't consider anything else and just focus on mahiyah, don't bring any other thing else, just focus on mahiyah. Is it mawjood or ma'doom?
موجود only in the mind. Only in the mind.
No, mawjood means in reality. Al-mahiyatu min haythu hiya. No. It's neither mawjood nor ma'doom. Yes. Yes. For philosophy, you have to study before coming to class. If other subjects, you can study in the class and then you review and do mubahisa. For philosophy, you have to study before coming to the class so that your mind is prepared. Because it's not easy, especially in the beginning, because every day you learn lots of terms and lots of expressions. Okay? So, please try to read in advance and be prepared. But this lesson, even if you had studied in advance, was not that much helping you because many things are not there. Okay. So, mahiyya as such, like insan or faras. If you just focus on mahiyya and consider mahiyya without anything else, is it mawjood or ma'doom?
Neither.
Neither. Why? Because there is no reason coming from mahiyya which indicates that it must exist or it must not exist. Mahiyya has equal relation to existence and non-existence. If it was supposed to exist, then it means that it could never stop existing. If it was supposed to be ma'doom, then it could have never come to existence. Okay? Therefore, philosophers say, al-mahiyyatu min haythu hiya laysat illa hiya. Mahiyya as such is nothing except itself. You cannot extract out of it existence or non-existence. Al-mahiyyatu min haythu hiya laysat hiya. La mawjuda wala ma'duma. Pardon?
You said ليست إلا هي شيخ.
ليست إلا هي. Thank you. الماهية من حيث هي ليست إلا هي. لا موجودة ولا معدومة. What is faras? What is human being? What is tree? Just mahiyya itself. Whether it exists or not, it's not included inside mahiyya. Yeah? And therefore, it's possible that it sometimes exists and sometimes doesn't. Right now, do we have elephant here? No, we don't have elephant. Why? Is there any problem in mahiyya of elephant? No. Mahiyya of elephant can be with existence and can be without existence. Right now, we don't have elephant. But if you go to zoo, there is elephant. So it means that mahiyya doesn't require by itself existence or non-existence. So when mahiyya exists, is for what? If mahiyya exists, it's because of an external factor, which we call it cause. There must be originating cause that gives existence to mahiyya. When mahiyya doesn't exist, again must be for something external. Okay? You shouldn't think that mahiyya by itself doesn't exist, and when it exists, it has a reason. No. Whether it exists or doesn't exist has an external reason. When it exists, what is the reason for its existence? Originating cause. When it doesn't exist, what is the reason for non-existence? Lack of originating cause. I think I said this before to you, that عدم العلة علة للعدم. عدم العلة علة للعدم. Non-existence of the cause is the cause for non-existence. It's not a poem. It's a philosophical rule. Non-existence of the cause is the cause for non-existence. When the originating cause of something doesn't exist, then it has to be non-existent. So, whether something exists or doesn't exist, it's not because of its essence. The essence doesn't dictate existence or non-existence. Because if it was dictating one of them, then it could not be coming in both forms. The fact that all mahiyat can be existent and non-existent shows that in their essence they have equal relation with being and not being. And the same is with many other things. For example, does human being need to be young or old? Male or female? Short or tall? We say no. None of these things are required by the essence of human being. It is true that in reality all human beings are either male or female. They are, for example, tall or short, but these are not coming from their essence. If they were in the essence, then the other alternative could never come to existence. If in our essence was to be tall, then no human being could be short. If in our essence was to be short, no human being could be tall. So it means that to exist or not to exist or to have any other quality which is not essential has to be coming from outside. Therefore philosophers say الماهية من حيث هي ليست إلا هي لا موجودة ولا معدومة ولا أي شيء آخر. Nothing else. The only thing which is in our essence is our jins and fasl. For example, haywan and atif. Of course, this is just for simplification. We say haywan and atif. But whatever is that is fixed. Anything which is changeable means it's not essential. Anything changeable is not essential. So, human mind analyzes realities and take two notions out of them. Abstracts two notions. The notion of mahiyya, the notion of wujud, existence. Our mind is more familiar with mahiyya and all the time works with mahiyya. And then our mind comes to notice that sometimes mahiyya exists and sometimes mahiyya doesn't exist. So when it exists, it says هذه الماهية موجودة. For example, الإنسان موجود, الفرس موجود, البقر موجود. When it doesn't exist, it says ليست موجودة. But in reality, inshallah we will explain when we talk about asalat al-wujud, the main thing is wujud, not mahiyya. In the external world, the main thing is wujud. Our mind approaches realities first through mahiyya. But the realities are first of all and primarily a matter of reality. A reality that has some whatness. But the reality is more important than the whatness of the reality. You must have something, then you say what it is. You have a question?
Yeah, actually my question was what you are saying.
Okay.
I was going to say that wouldn't it be easier to say that Mahiyya actually depends on the existence? So because you wouldn't say there's an elephant unless there's an elephant.
Yeah, but
If there's
but
no,
Mahi,
then you don't have to speak about it.
but you can think of elephant which doesn't exist.
I can do, yeah.
Yeah. So if you say Mahiyya depends on existence, you have to clarify what you mean by Mahiyya depends. We can have Mahiyya without existence. Right now, we have many things that don't exist, but they are possible to exist.
It can be also something just exists in the mind. For example, unicorn just exists in the mind or in the. Like,
So that's Mahiyya. It's not real existence. That is mental existence. Because Mahiyya can exist in mind and can exist in the real world. If just exists in the mind,
It's like an objective.
it's not objective. Unicorn is not objective.
No, other things.
Yes. If it exists in the real world, then it's objective. So, Mahiyya can be only in our mind or can be in the real world. Okay? There is no necessity for Mahiyya to exist or for Mahiyya not to exist. It has equal relation to existence and non-existence. Yes?
The mental existence, is it of Mahiyya?
Yeah.
It's of Mahiyya, yeah?
Inshallah, when we reach the discussion about al-wujud al-dhihni, wujud al-ayni or khariji, we would say that Mahiyya sometimes exists only in our mind and sometimes in the real world. When it is in the mind, it doesn't have the effects. For example, if you have fire in your mind, maybe some of you now have fire in your mind, but the good news is that that fire doesn't burn. Or at least doesn't burn apart from the mind. Yeah, no, that fire doesn't burn. Okay? And if you have water in your mind, that water doesn't make anything wet. Yeah? Because it's just Mahiyya without reality. Inshallah, when you study more, you realize that actually that is not Mahiyya in Hamla Shayya, that is Mahiyya in Hamla Awali. And therefore it has no effect. When it comes to the real world, to the reality, then it comes with effect. But, just in barakats, keep in your mind for future, certain things, their reality is in the mind. That's another issue. Don't get confused. When we are talking about fire and horse and monkey and donkey and this type of things, the reality is outside. But there are issues that their external reality is mind, like our mental images.
Like doubt issue?
So, or doubt. These are realities in mind, which is different from Mahiyya as just a kind of notion. So that's another issue. So sometimes something is in our mind as a reality. Sometimes there is something in our mind just as an image of a reality, not a reality by itself. So sometimes, for example, you think of fire and water and flower and tree. These notions in your mind have no reality. They are wujud al-zihni, they are mental existence. But if you think of a concept, that concept not as reflecting a reality. For example, the concept of fire. The concept of fire has two aspects. One is its reflective side, which reflects fire. From this side, it has no reality. It has no effect. But the concept of fire by itself is a reality. That's another issue. The concept of fire by itself is a quality for our soul. It's like knowledge. But it's different from fire. So every image has two sides. One is the image by itself. One is what that image reflects. Like let me give you this example. If you have a picture of someone printed on paper. You have a picture printed. What is this picture? You can say this is picture of my friend, but this is not really your friend. It just refers to your friend. Yeah? And you can say this is a piece of paper. If you look at it as a reality by itself, it's a paper. If you look at it from its reflective side, you say, this is my friend. So the fire, the image of fire in our mind is reflecting fire, but it's not a real fire. And that image by itself is a quality for our soul, like printed, but that is not printed. That is a psychological image. You can have image on piece of paper. You can have image on your computer. You can have image in your mind and soul. Yes.
This can be applied also for the character. Sometimes our own character reflects something and our actions, and so to create a mental image from that kind of action and associate with certain person.
Like what?
For example, a person is like kind, and each time the person comes, we know that person is kind.
Okay.
This kind of concept. We already know, we start to associate kindness with that.
Yeah, so that's an association of ideas. We call it tadari. So whenever the person that I know to be kind and I have long, experience history with him, whenever that person comes to my mind, automatically kindness comes to my mind.
Yes.
And this is not causal relation. This is the relation because of association of the ideas. Okay? There are some brothers that they come normally to Salatul Jama'ah Islamic Center. So whenever I see them, I remember Salat. Even one of them, I saved his name. I said, Mr. So Namaz. Because there are many of the people with that name, so I put, Mr. So Namaz. So I know that this is the person. So I told him, you remind me always of Salat.
I was thinking it's the same thing here. So.
Okay, so we have Mahiyya, we have existence, and these two are two separate concepts, but when we go to the reality, they both apply to the same thing. وَاتَّحَدَا هُوِيَّةً. We don't have two different things, two distinct things outside. You have, for example, a person like Zayd, or you have a flower, or you have, a book, whatever you have, is one thing, but you can extract or abstract Mahiyya, you can abstract existence. Okay? So it's very important to know that these are two different things in our mind. This doesn't need any argument or proof. If you just can imagine what is the question, you would understand the answer. Sometimes you need to prove something. Sometimes you just need to have proper conception. If you know what is the question, the answer comes. Yeah? Many times people disagree because they have not understood the question in the same way. They just disagree. But if you understand the question properly, there is a great chance that many questions would be self-evident. Anyway, when it comes to the difference between wujud and mahiyya, it's very obvious. If you understand what is wujud and what is mahiyya, it's obvious that these are two different things. But still, some people have argued. So, if you are not able to understand that they are different, these arguments help you as proof. If you already understand, this argument helps you as a kind of reminder or as a kind of reassurance. Okay? So, the first argument for what? That wujud and mahiyya are separate. If wujud, existence, was the same as mahiyya, or existence was part of mahiyya, then it was not possible for us to say this mahiyya does not exist. Because you cannot negate essence of something or part of its essence from it. If wujud was the same as, for example, faras, or wujud was part of the mahiyya of faras, you could never say al-farasu laysa bimawjudin. The fact that you can say al-farasu laysa bimawjudin, horse doesn't exist, shows that wujud is not part of the essence or equal to the essence. Is it clear? Is it clear that I'm speaking?
Could you say it again? Sorry.
Pardon?
In English.
Just say it again.
Okay. So we said it's not difficult to understand that wujud is different from mahiyya. But still, some people have developed some arguments. These arguments are not really proof or arguments because it's obvious. As a refreshment, as a reminder of what you can know by yourself, or you can say as a reassurance. Anyway, the first argument is this. If wujud and mahiyya were not two different things, then it means that, for example, wujud was the same as mahiyya, or wujud was part of mahiyya, or mahiyya was part of wujud. There are no other options. Either wujud and mahiyya were the same, or one of them was part of the other. If wujud was part of mahiyya, or was equal to mahiyya, then you could never say this mahiyya does not exist. It had to always exist. And mahiyya cannot be part of wujud, because wujud has no part. Okay? So wujud and mahiyya are two separate things. Pardon?
We said wujud has no part?
Yes, because wujud is basit. We said before, wujud is simple. So this is the first argument. Wujud is not equal to mahiyya, nor it is part of mahiyya, because I can think of mahiyya without existence. Can you think of insan without haywaniyya? No. Can you think of insan without natiqiyya? No. Why? Because haywan and natiq are part of insaniyya. But I can think of insan who doesn't exist. So it means that existence is not part of insaniyya. There is no reason why insan has to always exist. Wujud or adam, existence and non-existence, are not inside the essence of insan. Okay? This is the first argument. The second argument. Of course, these are all arguments if you know the thing by yourself. Otherwise, none of these are. If someone doesn't know the answer, really, these arguments also are not more obvious. They're just reminders.
So mahiyya, the only place where it can not exist is in the wujud of Allah, in wajib al-wujud.
The only.
He said that it can be either part of wujud or it could be.
No, we said
wujud
it's
itself.
not.
It cannot be.
We said there are few
was-
possibilities, but none of them is correct. It cannot be equal to mahiyya, it cannot be part of mahiyya, it cannot be also something that mahiyya is part of it.
He said, why? Because then, if that was the case,
Then it had to always exist.
always exist. So the only
And also, mahiyya is not part of wujud because wujud has no part.
But the only instance where mahiyya doesn't exist is in the wajib al-wujud, because that's what we are
No,
trying
there
to
is no
do.
mahiyya there. In wajib al-wujud, mahiyya is existence.
Yeah, that's what
We don't have mahiyya there.
Because we said
That's not
Because-
really mahiyya.
because we have an instance where mahiyya doesn't exist,
Many instances.
Which instances?
Millions of human beings don't exist. Many millions of horses don't exist. Billions, not just millions. There are many, many things that don't exist. It's not that
They don't have wujud, not mahiyya.
they have mahiyya, but they don't have existence. Right now, do we have a horse here?
Yeah, but
No. But horse is possible. So mahiyya is possible, but there is no existence.
Yeah, but we are saying mahiyya. I mean, the argument was if they were together or part of each other, or they were the same thing, then we couldn't have an instance that mahiyya didn't exist.
Yeah. So it means that mahiyya has to always exist.
Okay, so the only...
But the fact that some mahiyya don't exist,
Which mahiyya don't exist? It's just
Everything.
wajib al-wujud.
many
They don't
instances
have
of
existence.
many instances of every mahiyya don't exist.
Just now he's trying to say that there's one case where mahiyya...
No, not just one case.
Which is Allah.
Even human beings. Now we have, for example, I don't know, 6.5, for example,
their
billion human
existence.
beings. We could have 100 billion human beings.
That's
They
their
don't
ex-
exist.
That's their existence part which is missing, not the mahiyya.
Okay, so you have mahiyya without existence.
Okay, I'm talking about the other side.
So when there is a mahiyya without existence, it means that existence is not part of mahiyya. If existence was part of mahiyya, then all possible instances of mahiyya had to exist. Okay.
There is one question I have.
There are many questions.
Only one question.
Okay.
You said wujud, suppose you say human being is wujud. Okay, many parts. You did say it was simple. Because so many parts in this.
These parts are not for our wujud. These are for mahiyya. So, the second argument. If existence was the same as mahiyya or part of mahiyya, you didn't need to prove existence of mahiyya. You know, sometimes people ask you, do angels exist or not? If mahiyya involved existence, you were not in need of arguing for it. If someone says, are there human beings in Mars? You have to argue for it. If existence was inside the mahiyya of insan, you didn't need to argue for it. Is that thing that I see from distance, is it, for example, a human being, or it's an animal, or it's just illusion? Why you have to argue? Because there is no existence included in mahiyya. It's additional to mahiyya, and therefore you have to make efforts to prove that there is this existence or there is no this existence. No? So this is the second argument. It seems you are still in the previous question, or?
I was writing that, so I didn't
It's okay.
I didn't catch the second one.
Okay, if I didn't answer properly, please forgive me.
I was just writing that, but
Okay.
I missed the second.
The second argument, so if existence is not part of mahiyya, or the same as mahiyya, then it makes sense that we argue for existence of something. But if it was the same or part of it, it didn't make sense to argue for existence of something.
Second, you say, Sheikh?
Pardon?
Second?
This is the second argument.
So it's the same as first
No,
argument?
one was the possibility of negating. The second is the need for proving. The fact that it's possible to negate and the fact that we need to prove shows that they are not the same. The third, if existence was the same as mahiyya or part of mahiyya, we were not able to think of existence separate from mahiyya. Whenever we were thinking of mahiyya, we should have thought about existence. But you know, we can think of existence separate from mahiyya. For example, I can think of, I don't know, fish, bird, and then I can think whether it exists or doesn't exist. Okay? Or for example, a snake. Is there a snake here or not? I can think of a snake. Then I can think whether a snake exists here or doesn't exist here. If existence was part of a snake, as soon as I was thinking of a snake, I should have thought also about its existence. So I could not think about non-existence. Or if non-existence was part of it, then I could not have thought about the possibility of existence. So a snake is something, and whether it exists or not is additional. Is it clear? Okay. Then the second thing is, now we established that wujud and mahi are two separate things. Now the second thing is that in kharij, in the external world, they are united. وَاتَّحَدَ هُوِيَّةً. So the second part is وَاتَّحَدَ هُوِيَّةً. Outside, we have one. The same thing to which you can say insan and you can say mawjud. Both of them apply to the same thing. You don't have two realities. One is insan, one is wujud. It's the same reality. You can say this is insan and this is mawjud.
The reason for calling it insan is because the insan is mawjud.
Pardon?
The reason for that we have mahiyya of insan is because there is insan.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean,
So I didn't get the question. Is it a question or it's a...
no, it's actually just what you say.
Thinking out loud.
Affirmation.
Thinking out loud.
confirmation?
No, he's saying, Sheikh, that we say insan, then mawjud.
No problem.
Yeah.
No matter which one you say first. What is important that both of them refer to the same thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes maybe you think first about existence and then say what is this existence, then you think about its mahiyya. Sometimes you think about its mahiyya first and then about existence. But what is important is both of them refer to the same thing. We don't have two realities. We have one reality outside.